It's leap year, it's leap day. Hello and welcome to Slooh, especially those of you joining us on our live channel at slooh.com. That's where members hang out and chat. They can watch and control the Slooh telescopes from both the Canary Islands and Chile observatories every clear night. Now look at this image. That is a live view of the Canary Islands Observatory. We've had a terrible snow and ice storm up there, which has kept us closed for quite a few days, and the domes are still covered in ice. In fact, all of the roads up to the observatory are blocked. Now then, that's a great view, isn't it? Oh, you can, if members are watching, you can see that it's live. It's a live panorama in the Slooh Clubhouse. So do check that out. Now, if you've got any questions or comments for me, or hopefully our esteemed guest, if we can get him on, Bob Berman, during the show, you can send a tweet to @Slooh, or you can use the chat room right next to the video at slooh.com. So what are we doing for this show? Well, for those of you who haven't noticed, today is the 29th of February. It's a date we see every 4 years. It's Leap Day. So it's in the news every 4 years, isn't it? It comes around. And what better way to illustrate this subject than with some live solar views from Slooh partner Matt Francis at the Prescott Observatory. There it is. There's Matt's Prescott Observatory. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Matt's really into scientific outreach, and he does a marvelous job for us with these solar views we are going to have later on the show. Oh, by the way, welcome back, member Hugh James. Hi, Hugh. I saw you rejoin today. Good to see you back. So, leap day, leap year, and even leap seconds. What are they? Why do we need them? And will they always remain the same? Now, we were hoping to have Slooh astronomer Bob Berman on the show to help answer those questions, but unfortunately we are having problems raising Bob. So come in, Bob, if you can hear us, because unfortunately this is a subject that, other than the real basics, I know absolutely nothing about. I was actually going to be saying to Bob, you know, actually Bob, this one I haven't got to pretend to be dumb about this subject, because I am dumb about this subject. But let's take a look at some of the stunning images from Matt Francis and Prescott Observatory. We've talked about those because, of course, leap years and adding a leap day is all about adjusting our calendars to how long it takes the Earth to orbit our home star. And there it is, the sun, live. Oh, Matt Francis, what are you doing to us? Those images are gorgeous. Now, this is a very, very special telescope that Matt uses for this. It's called an H-alpha telescope. And what that does is it filters out a lot of the white light that we see and just shows us the emissions from hydrogen. And there it is. It enables us to see all of this beautiful surface granularity. And we have got, actually, a view very similar to this for our total solar eclipse show that we've got coming up on the 8th of March. Now, keep an eye open on these images. And now, while we're trying to raise Bob, now if we can't raise Bob, by the way, we're going to cut the show short and see if we can raise him and come back a little bit later. But I would like to welcome in Slooh's cultural, and in this particular show, Slooh's calendar expert, Trisha Ennis. Hi, Trish. Can you hear me?
Hi, Paul. I can hear you.
Hello. Now, this is an international get-together, isn't it? You're in Slooh HQ in Connecticut. I'm over here in the UK. But before we get you talking about leap years and calendars and stuff, we've got something pretty exciting, haven't we, that you and I are doing at the end of this week?
Yes, we do. I'm very excited.
So we are going on the Slooh Total Solar Eclipse expedition to Indonesia. That is going to be an awesome show, and we're going to be bringing you the culture of that part of the world throughout the whole expedition, not just on Eclipse Day. But we've got some really, really special things lined up for Eclipse Day. We've got people like Dr. Lucy Green joining us. She's going to tell us all about the phenomena of solar eclipses like Bailey's beads and the diamond ring. And Trish, what are you most looking forward to for this expedition?
Honestly, I think the eclipse itself, like actually getting the opportunity to watch a total solar eclipse from the ground, just like being able to see it and not having to watch it online, or being, just being able to go outside and look up and see this amazing experience.
You think you're going to actually get the opportunity to watch it while we're there presenting and putting the show together, do you?
I don't know. I'm going to steal a moment, I think, while we're putting the show together to actually look up and see it.
Yeah, we've got a really good period of totality there. It's just over 2 minutes, about 2 minutes, 2 seconds there. Unlike the Kenya eclipse, if Slooh members, you can go back and watch the Kenya eclipse that we did. Gosh, that was a great expedition. And we only had about 12 seconds of totality there, but we had all but given up. But just at the moment of totality, the clouds parted enough. And frankly, it was probably one of the most spiritual and emotional moments of my entire life. So goodness knows what will happen in Indonesia if we get clear skies and we have a whole 2 minutes of that. I'll be a sobbing mess on the ground.
I'll bring tissues. I'll make sure you've got some tissues there.
Anyway, Trish, back to this subject. I mean, first of all, what do you make of this image from Matt Francis at the Prescott Observatory? Pretty special, isn't it?
I always love the images that we get from Matt at Prescott, because you get to see the sun in a way that you just really could never do standing on the ground looking up in anything other than a total solar eclipse, because you would go blind, and that would be horrible.
Exactly.
So
now, what time is it where you are at the moment?
Images from Matt.
Yeah. What time is it there, Trish?
I'm sorry?
What time is it in Connecticut at the moment?
It is just afternoon. It is 12:12 p.m.
Okay, now Arizona is what, 2 hours behind that?
2 hours behind us, because I believe that Matt is in an area of Arizona that doesn't do daylight savings time.
Okay, but the point I was going to make there was that the early morning is actually the very best time to observe the sun with these special types of telescope, because it's before the sun's had a chance to heat up all of the ground, the telescope and everything else, and that ruins the seeing. Just like you're looking over an asphalt road, you get all that turbulent air coming off. So it's the mornings which are the best times of day to observe the sun. And of course, in Indonesia, we're going to be watching the eclipse just as it rises. But anyway, let's get back then to leap days, leap years. Now, I've already professed I have a total lack of knowledge, so I was totally relying on Bob for this particular show. That's a good excuse, isn't it? Now, you were going to do a section on this show about calendars. So what did you have to tell us on this, Trish?
Well, in addition to being Slooh's sort of mythology experts and knower of all things ancient and strange, I also have a lot of useless information logged up in my brain about things like calendars and the different ways that we have marked time throughout history. And I think it's kind of fascinating to think of the ways that we've measured time and everything, because in reality, time itself is a man-made construct. There's not
Yeah.
really a real thing such as time. We just sort of use it to measure our existence. And it's interesting that we've used calendars and things to mark days and weeks and months and et cetera, uh, for longer than we've understood our orbit around the sun. You know, we were using a calendar before people even realized to orbit the sun. So we've had a lot of different ways that we've marked time depending on the culture that you're talking about and, you know, what kind of time marking you're using. We've had everything from what I think is a very simple system, which is the one that we use right now, where we have, you know, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. A day is how long it takes the Earth to rotate once, and a year is how long it takes the Earth to go around the sun. But as we know from leap days, that isn't a perfect system. It's, you know, the Earth doesn't actually revolve around the sun in exactly 365 days. It revolves around the sun in like 365 point something days. So that every 4 years we add a leap day, except on very specific years that I think are divisible by 400 or something, because there's like the math is still slightly off. So we've never really been able to perfectly find the correct system to measure time and to mark a calendar.
So every 4 years, we make this adjustment between our calendars and the actual time that it takes the Earth to orbit the sun. But just doing then that one day every 4 years doesn't quite make up for the adjustment. So over longer periods of time, you know, whether that's every 100 years or, as you said, you know, another period of time, we have to make another adjustment. And I believe on that one, we don't have. I know I think it was 2000, we didn't add a leap day. Do you know if that's right? I think that's the way it goes. So we have to keep. Sorry, Trish, go on.
Yep, I believe 2000 did, but 1900 didn't, and 2100 won't.
Okay. So this is making this kind of further adjustment all the time, and we're having to tweak that as we go along. Now, what else can you? Interesting that you talk about calendars down the ages, because I'm about probably 40 minutes away from Stonehenge here in the southwest of England, and I guess that, in a way, could be classed as a very physical calendar. They were marking very specifically the times of year, equinox and solstice, when the sun and the moon, you know, were at very specific places on the horizon. They were measuring time, and that all comes down. I think a lot of these calendars and early ways of measuring time were about when to plant crops, when to do other things in their lives to do with, you know, just staying alive, basically.
Yeah, very much so. And Stonehenge is probably one of the bigger and more well-known stone monuments to this idea of measuring time. Stonehenge and the other stone circles like it. There's actually one just north of Slooh HQ in, I believe it's in Vermont or New Hampshire. It's in New Hampshire. That's called the American Stonehenge, which is its own, you know, giant stone monument that was used to mark solstices and equinoxes. You know, everybody knows about sundials and, you know, not navigating, but telling time by where the sun's shadow casts, and you have to set those up very specifically, or else they're not really going to give you the right time. But I think people also don't realize that it wasn't just cultures like, you know, British cultures, so Stonehenge, and you have the similar stone circles in I think Wales and in Ireland. There are also stone circles in Australia that Aboriginal cultures actually built and put there. If you're a Slooh member, you can actually go back and watch one of our more recent equinox shows, in which we actually speak to an Aboriginal scholar who talks about how interesting it was that different cultures so far away and so vastly different in the way that they looked at the stars and space actually did a lot of similar things. And also in South America, many of the Aztec temples are the same.
I mean, it just shows how absolutely fundamental it is for human beings to understand and be able to measure time. I guess in this day and age, we worry about the minutes and seconds, but back then, people were worried more about, I think, the seasons than anything else, weren't they?
Yeah, they definitely were. I mean, they were always one of the things that we also do here on Slooh is we do each month we talk about the full moon and
Yeah,
the different ways that cultures, namely Native American cultures and colonial cultures, uh, named the different moons, and they all very much correspond to the seasons. You have the harvest moon in September
yeah,
or
sure,
October, depending on which part of the country you're in.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was the thing that told you when to plant food and when to harvest and when it was going to be terrible weather.
yeah. So I mean, it often comes back to this as well, doesn't it? I mean, we're in Indonesia for the total solar eclipse. Total solar eclipse only occur at new moon. Many calendars, many religious calendars, actually mark the beginning of their month by the new moon. Um, Islam is the core one. Now in Bali, this particular new moon marks their new year. So there's another classic example of when the lunar cycle very much fixes a human calendar. I'm just looking again at these marvelous images from Matt Francis at the Prescott Observatory. We're in a period of when the sun really should be a lot more active than it is, and it's going to be fascinating during the total solar eclipse, because during the total solar eclipse is the only time where we can see with our naked eye the corona, which is this kind of outer atmosphere. It's where you can see all sorts of fingers. Now, depending on the activity of the sun and what kind of magnetic field it's generating at any point, really changes how much and the kind of structure of that. So it's going to be pretty good to see what's going to be happening in how long is it? It is only about 8 or 9 days. Goodness me. We haven't got long to
Yeah,
go.
it's only in 8 days, 8 more days until the total solar eclipse.
Now, listen, it's not just the solar eclipse that we've got coming up, have we? We have got a couple of other superb events in March. If anybody wants to help us hunt for the missing near-Earth asteroid, that's going to be coming up. Trish, when are we doing that? I think we're doing that on the 9th of March, the day after the eclipse.
We are planning on doing that on the 9th of March, the day after the total solar eclipse. I think that you would be better to comment on this, but that we're able to actually just sort of pick a day for that one because the asteroid is so lost that it is completely uncertain when it's actually going to fly by the Earth.
Exactly. On the latest forecast, it's a 2-day uncertainty of, when it's actually going to be making its closest approach to Earth. Now, I did see one report yesterday that suggested that it had been recovered, but actually the asteroid had been found on some far older images. So that has helped to refine the orbit a little bit. But as far as I know, it still has not been observed since 2013. But so we got hunt for the missing asteroid. We also have, I believe, during March, we've got 2 comets that visually in the sky are going to be quite close together, and one of those is going to be making the closest approach to Earth than any comet for some time, isn't it, Trish? What have we got coming up there? Have you got a date for that?
Yeah, we're gearing up for that. That's going to be really great. I love how comets look through our telescopes. We recently did a show about the comet Catalina around Christmas. We called it the Christmas comet, and that was brilliant and bright green.
Well, it's superb. It was just a brilliant comet, and in fact, Slooh members are still imaging that every night. By far the best comet that we've seen for a very long time, and kind of made up for the disappointments of Comet Ison, which was, if you remember, going to be the comet of the century, but proved everybody that comets do whatever they like, and always come up with some surprises. Now, Trish, before we haven't been able to raise Bob and use his encyclopedic knowledge about leap years and leap days and also leap seconds, because Trish, you did mention about having to make adjustments for the Earth's actual spin and the amount of time. Well, that changes as well. And that comes down to something that we have to do sometimes, adding, they're not kind of leap seconds, but we have to add and subtract seconds from our clocks because of these changes to the spin. Have you got anything more for us, Trish, before we wind up this show? We may reconvene if we can raise Bob, but have you got anything else for us on leap year?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I wanted to mention during my segment on calendars was that one of my favorite stories of astronomical importance, of not necessarily importance, but of interest, I guess, and of personal interest to me, is of the Mayan calendar, which caused all the uproar in 2012.
Yes.
We talked about how simple our calendar is with, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months.
Yeah.
But the Mayans actually, ancient culture that was wildly advanced in certain respects. And they had one of the more confusing calendars because they had like 5 or 6 different calendars that all folded into each other and ended with the long count calendar, which of course, as we know, ran out in 2012 and made everybody think that the world was going to end.
Exactly. We did a special show. I can remember doing the show, The End of the World Live. It was great. And all of the doomsayers who said the world was going to end, the following day, they all went quiet. And then the week later, they basically just shifted all of the dates forward by a few years. And I think one of the latest rumors is 2016, large comet or asteroid at the end of the year. And we're all going to die horribly.
We are all going to die horribly, but we're always rescheduling the apocalypse.
And at least you and I are going to get to see the total solar eclipse, and all of our viewers are going to be able to see a total solar eclipse before we meet our end. Now look at this marvelous image, this H Alpha, this special image from the Prescott Observatory, Slooh's partner, Matt Francis. This is brilliant. Trish, we've got these live views, haven't we, continuing on the live channel?
Matt's views won't be continuing today past the end of this show, but he does do a live broadcast every Tuesday and Thursday from 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, which is great. It's every Tuesday and Thursday, and he'll be doing it again tomorrow and this coming Thursday as well.
Definitely not to be missed. They are just glorious views. Now, before we go, we've obviously we want to remind you about a big campaign that we're running. It's Slooh's Shade Up campaign. All you got to do is grab a pair of sunglasses, take out your cell phone, snap a selfie, then share it to Instagram or Twitter using the hashtag Shade Up to show us how excited you are for the eclipse on the 8th of March. Hey, look at that. Isn't that cute? Special Slooh eclipse glasses there. That's good. Never look at the sun, by the way, with normal sunglasses. We are reposting our favorites, and you might even get to see your Shade Up selfie during our eclipse show. And don't forget, that show is at 6 p.m. starts 6 p.m. Eastern. Hey, nice, Trish. Very good. Joining in the fun. Shade Up. Are they the same as the ones on that cat?
I don't think so. I think those are slightly fancier than mine.
Okay, I still think the internet should be reserved solely for cat and cat pictures and videos. But anyway, we will be reposting your selfies, your Shade Up selfies. So please join us for that. We launched that campaign at New York Fashion Week, which was an absolutely great event. Now, for those of you watching on the live channel at Slooh, we are going to have more gorgeous live telescope views from our Southern Hemisphere Chile Observatory tonight. If you weren't watching and snapping images last night, you missed some of the best ever Jupiter and Saturn images we've seen this year. They were absolutely awesome. So it's looking pretty good at the Chile Observatory tonight. Look at that one. What do you reckon to that, Trish?
Oh, that one is a great image of Jupiter. I love how Jupiter looks through our telescopes. You can actually see a planet.
I know,
and the red spot.
Pretty awesome. And of course, the scale of it is just so massive. I mean, the Earth would fit easily inside the red spot, and that was of Saturn last night. We can see that gap, around the rings. It's just looking gorgeous. And what you can actually see there is the shadow of the planet on the ring system at the back. So, Slooh members, live views. Have a look at that. Snap. Use the camera. You can snap and collect your own beautiful, beautiful images. And for anybody who's not a member, well, join. Join in the fun so you can control the telescopes and snap and share your own celestial images to amaze and inspire your friends and family. Trish, got any final words for viewers?
I think that the viewers should all come and join us for the eclipse. That's my only mindset right now. Is all about the eclipse all the time. March 8th,
It
6
is.
p.m. Eastern.
Yep,
Join
we are
us.
so focused on that now. I'm packing up, tons of special equipment that we have to take to film these things. It's going to be great for me to have an extra pair of hands, Trish, you coming along for that as well, which means that basically at totality, I'll hand over to you so I can actually enjoy it and take it in personally. So. So I have promised to carry the bags. Anyway, Trish, thanks very much for stepping in at the last minute. Apologies to viewers
Anytime,
that
Paul.
we haven't been. That's great. Apologies to viewers that we weren't able to bring you the show that we had lined up. So excuse our slight waffling. Hopefully we will get hold of Bob. So anyway, thank you very much. We will see you for the Slooh Eclipse plus other shows as well. But the Slooh Eclipse, Total Solar Eclipse Expedition in Indonesia, 6 p.m. Eastern on the 8th of March. We'll see you then. Cheerio.